As you may have noticed, we have very few actual races in the North Country this election season. Not a single state legislature race is even contested. So here at NCPR, we've been reporting a lot on little d democracy, not so much on who wins what, but the role office holders play in our small towns and villages every day. And we've been asking you, people in our texting club, how you see little d democracy playing out in your neck of the woods. We report what you told us on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Claxton-Hepburn Medical Center, dedicated to providing patient care and regional services to the people of St. Lawrence County. claxtonhepburn.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, October 31st, Halloween. Have a good time. Careful driving this evening with all those cute little kidlets out and about. First up, the two candidates for New York's 21st congressional district kicked off the final week before Election Day in very different venues. Kara Chapman has more.
On Sunday night, Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik took to the stage at Madison Square Garden.
Hello, New York!
She was one of many who spoke to the sold-out crowd of thousands of Donald Trump supporters. She criticized the Biden-Harris administration for its handling of the border, inflation, and conflicts like the war between Israel and Hamas. Stefanik said this election is the most important in our lifetime.
No matter where you go, whether it's in New York City, upstate New York, or in any of the swing states, people understand there is so much at stake. And it is we the people, when we vote for President Donald J. Trump, we the people will save America.
At a much smaller event the following night, Stefanik's Democratic opponent Paula Collins agreed the stakes of this election are high, but for different reasons.
Are we going to further democracy, or are we going to pull back on democracy?
According to the Glens Falls Post-Star, which posted the audio, about 50 people went to the Crandall Public Library to watch Collins debate herself. Collins said she and her team invited Stefanik to attend the debate multiple times. The Congresswoman's campaign said she wouldn't be participating. At the event on Monday night, Collins criticized Stefanik, saying she continues to not accept the results of the 2020 election and has given vague answers about whether she'd accept the results of this election. In an interview with CNN earlier this year, Stefanik suggested that she wouldn't have certified the results of the 2020 election had she been vice president at the time. Collins called on Stefanik to resign.
She has shirked her oath of office to protect and defend the United States Constitution. We have every indication from her that she plans to do the same in the days and weeks ahead.
Asked for a response, Stefanik's senior advisor Alex DeGrasse said the Congresswoman is, quote, running on her record of results and is absolutely positioned to once again earn the most total votes of any candidate in North Country history. Stefanik heads into Election Day with huge advantages. Those include millions in campaign cash, name recognition, and a strong alliance with Trump, who is popular in the North Country. Collins has said, regardless of the outcome, she plans to run again in 2026. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
The presidential election is on everyone's mind right now, but on Tuesday, people will also elect dozens of local officials, mayors and supervisors, council people, judges and justices. Those small races will have big impacts on their communities. We recently asked people in NCPR's texting club what down-ballot races they're paying attention to and how much they believe local offices influence their lives. Amy Feiereisel reports back on what you told us.
Dave Romai was born and raised in Messina. His father, Charlie, was a St. Lawrence County legislator in the 90s and early 2000s. He says he really admired the work his father did, and it pains him to see so many uncontested races this year.
The easy answer, I think, is apathy. Just, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to get involved. I'm sure that the fact of the matter is that we are in an economically disadvantaged area.
Romai says many people don't have the time or the energy to get involved in local politics. He also says he hears a lot of people talk about how they're essentially powerless, but he doesn't believe that.
Anybody that doesn't think local elections have any weight, that, the local politics don't matter, they're fooling themselves. In doing so, the phrase, I think, is cut off your nose to spite your face.
Romai is obviously passionate about local democracy, and so were most of the other folks who responded to NCPR's question about down-ballot races and locally elected officials. But not many people did. Usually when we ask questions through our texting club, we might see between 50 and 150 responses. This time it was just 24. And a lot of them mentioned apathy and disengagement.
What's frustrating, lack of involvement.
That's Lynn Hall of Potsdam.
And I'm not free of any guilt on that one. I never went to town or village board meetings.
That is, until she was elected onto Potsdam's town board in 2021. Hall says it's easy to think of politics as something that's happening instead of something you're involved in. As a professor at SUNY Potsdam, she says she sees this in her own union.
People say, I wonder what the union will do about it. And I want to say, well, we are the union. You are the union.
Hall says the issues that town and local officials deal with aren't always exciting. Taxes, potholes, the water treatment plant.
But they're really important for people to have a good life, to be able to live in their town without problems. We need people to advocate for our towns and our villages at the state level, particularly, and at the federal level.
Civic involvement, like volunteerism, is on the decline. When Hall was elected, less than a third of Potsdam's registered voters cast a ballot.
So that's a very small number of people who are showing their investment in who's making the decisions in their municipalities.
Elected officials like Hall also have a real hand in money matters. They vote on budgets, they write grants. And some of this involves a lot of taxpayer money, like the COVID relief funds that town and county governments received in 2021 and 2022.
It was rather unexpected. It was a lot of money.
Joe Lawrence lives in Lowville, and he volunteers on the board of the Lewis County Industrial Development Agency. That money has been used for road repairs, sewer fixes, childcare. And Lawrence says it's local legislators who made those decisions.
Here in Lewis County, I think there was a really good team effort among a lot of local officials, and the recognition that if this money was used for more strategic investments in the community, that it would have ripple effects and multiplier effects.
When it comes to local officials, there are sort of two buckets. Folks dealing with how to run things, think legislators and supervisors, and people dealing with the law, sheriffs and judges. Aaron McGill in Plattsburgh wrote, "The town justice position is a particularly important one to watch. It boggles my mind that New York State town justices do not need any law background at all, and only are required to have a 12-day training to do the job." In this year's election, most town justice positions are going uncontested, just one candidate. The one contested race in Essex County is for the county judge position. It's a big 10-year term. County judges deal with intimate, tough issues in family, probate, and criminal law.
When I was living in New York City, I, personally experienced the power that the judge had over my life for decades, really.
Annabelle Fave has been living in the U.S. since the late 1990s and was in family court over the custody of her son as an immigrant mother. Fave became a U.S. citizen in 2011. Now she's going to vote for the Essex County judge.
This is something I want to make sure I participate in. This is our one chance to have our voices heard and to make sure we elect people that we think are competent, trustworthy, and dedicated to each case equally.
But what about when it's hard to know who to put in power? That's something Brian Farinell from Queensbury has been thinking about a lot lately. He says it feels like it's getting harder and harder to find information about local races. As recently as 10 to 15 years ago, Farinell says he could find comprehensive coverage of down-ballot races in local papers, multiple stories, even investigative reporting.
It felt like you had enough information to at least have a general idea of what to do, how to cast an informed vote. Now you're getting one story. In an election cycle, you might not get anything other than, a capsule of a candidate answering a canned question.
Farinell says that often doesn't feel like enough to decide who should wield a lot of power. With so many uncontested races in 2024, there are fewer decisions to make overall. But the votes people cast in their local races will have long-lasting impacts on the communities they live in. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio.
If you're not in our texting club, we would love for you to join the conversation. It's fun. Your voice gets heard. You help us frame our reporting. And to be honest, it's just a couple texts a month. So text the word new to 315-978-6277 to join the NCPR Texting Club. That's new to 315-978-6277. Music today by Hank Soto of Stony Creek and Evan Veenstra of Gananoque, Ontario. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.